Please don't forget to like, share, and definitely subscribe. That helps the channel grow. As well as click that notification bell so you could be first to know when the videos come out. Thanks. It's been a while, but let's talk about one of the players in this game. Enon Harsh has been all over social media and YouTube lately. He's the guy that lived across the street at 500 Queen at the apartments. Let's listen to what he said.
A good place for us to start right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I work about like 10, usually like 9 to 11 hour shifts. So I went to work. I got off around, I think it was around 12 that night. It was kind of like a late close, and I like bullshitted with like a coworker for a little while after work, and then I went home. It was around, I don't know, like 1:30, 2-ish a.m. Is maybe when I got home, maybe and I always I'm always like kind of hoping that I have like a parking spot right in front of my door when I get there, because like lots of times on campus, there's like parties and like they're pretty full. And so like this time I noticed that they're like, I don't know, it wasn't really any cars as usual. I was like, cool, I'm gonna get a nice spot right in front. And there was I did, and I saw like this sort of like kind of like decked out like luxury, like I thought it was black SUV, maybe like a Beamer or something, and it had like rims, tinted windows, and I was like, oh, that's like a pretty cool car. And then like coming out, like I noticed some like plates from like Arizona, I want to say, or Montana. There's kind of like it's like I'm always like kind of curious what kind of like different plates are like around and stuff, because usually you just see like Idaho, especially in like my parking lot. And so like I came in, and it was like surprisingly like pretty empty that night. Like none of the houses and like that on those like two streets were having parties, which was like kind of unusual. And then I went home. Was like making some tea, just like doing some contact staff drills, and like stretching. I think I played a game of League, and then I went to bed, and then as I was falling asleep. It usually takes me like 30 minutes to an hour to fall asleep. Like, I don't know, I guess, I dismissed like initially like, one of my neighbors returning hello after me. So I heard like, a door shut, and then like, apartment door shut, and like also, like a scream, but like, that's like normal. Like I always hear like screaming almost every Saturday night. So like, I didn't really like think of it. And so, but like, yeah, just looking back, I was like, I wonder if like, that wasn't just like some drunk dude like screaming, like it's actually like the murder. And yeah, and it was like, it was kind of a trip having like the cops like come on, and like,
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is why he's come back into play. So he hears a scream. That's what he's famous for. These are pictures of his car. They were taken way back in December, when he decided to go cross country after coming out with these statements. He went to San Francisco to practice juggling his fire sticks. I was able to decipher that his car that he mentions having trouble parking is a Nissan Altima, 2007 approximately, and I was able to match that dashboard cluster. So you can see side by side his TikTok and that dashboard cluster, and that was approximately second week of December, I believe. So in addition to his troubling statements about hearing a scream,
and it's very, very slippery, but we're going to walk you
parks
up to
his
the
car
back of
in
the
an odd
house.
place, and I want you to see
No windows on the side of the house.
where his
You've
car
got the front
is.
door obviously on the front,
His
which we know
black
has the coded lock.
Nissan
On the
Altima.
back of the house, though, is where
It
the
actually
bedrooms are.
was in the background
Confirmed
of
that
a special report done by News
injuries.
Nation. There's Brian Enton, and that aired on December 4th.
Brian, I think we just lost your
he's
mic,
still
and I'm not sure.
parking
There, no, you're back.
up
You're back.
against
Can
the
you just
crime
repeat what you
scene.
said in the last 10
Which,
seconds? Your
who
mic
does
went dead.
that? I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's really odd. So that's why he's been on the radar. All of these small red flags. It went by his Facebook posts claiming that he didn't hear anything and oh my God, like people got killed, to now he hears a scream. The worst part of that is he mentions the scream happened around 4 a.m. or a little after 4. That was long before we knew that Brian Koberger entered the house after 4:04. This is just one of many troubling things, but let's listen to a little more.
Birds.
Yeah, they came almost instantly.
Okay.
It was a big. I'm not a student. I've been cooking for like 6 years now, 5 years.
Okay.
We know that's true as he's posted many videos of himself at work, cooking. Notice his attire, the black food handler nitrile gloves, which raised questions by other people based on a finding of a glove actually in the yard.
A bit clearer. I did not touch it. I brought it clearly. There it is to the left. Remember, I'm from Southern California and we know the value of gloves. One glove.
You can watch that whole video at the interview room. But these are the type of gloves worn by many people in food service. And I've done a video earlier on YouTube showing that crime scene techs are using different colors and not black. Again, we're not getting a good view of the kind of glove. Is it a snow glove? Is it a nitrile glove? What kind of glove? I can't say, but just another interesting coincidence. Okay, let's listen.
I've lived here off and on for 20. What was the last question? I missed it.
Like, you were at their house when you met them, right? I'm referring
No,
to a Reddit.
I read them. They were actually outside. I never went inside.
Okay.
But no, I didn't. Like. I was in my apartment all night. So.
Okay, the night of the murders or the crime, you were in your apartment all night.
I never really hung out with them. So like, to me they were just like some normal sorority girls that drank every once in a while on the weekends. So.
Okay, and yeah, and when I was asking you about meeting them, I want everybody else to know, and I know, but you also decided to share an AMA on Reddit recently, which is when I reached out to you, and you did kind of mention meeting them, or at least Kaylee, and maybe you think you might have met Xana and her boyfriend. That would be Ethan. Bringing them a bottle of wine, perhaps. Was that what happened? Or share us. Can you take us to meeting?
Yeah, because I think the person I think I remember most is Kaylee, and like when I introduced myself, I think she was like the first one I shook hands with. And yeah, I just had like this. It was a pretty nice bottle of wine. I don't remember what kind it was, but it was pretty expensive. And I was cooking with it, and I wasn't gonna finish it. And I was like taking my trash out, so I don't remember where I was outside. And they were just like like chit chatting, drinking a little bit, playing some cool music. And so I was like went down, and they were like drinking some beer, and I was just like asked her if she wanted this bottle of wine. I wasn't gonna finish this, and they were like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." And then I was like, "Yeah," and then I just introduced them, like the neighbor, like lived upstairs, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, they were super nice and smiley, and that's pretty much all I remember. I never met him after that. I was like, I always thought about crashing their party sometimes, but I never actually like did it. I usually got my own thing going on.
Yeah. But, yeah, you referred to them in the Reddit AMA as beautiful, joyful. I can't remember the other two adjectives, but yeah,
they seem very cool. And some of my coworkers actually went to high school with them in Coeur d'Alene, so it's like it's a trip for us. So and they said they're super cool too. So it's crazy that it's like when you think about these people getting stabbed, it's kind of like horrifying because it makes you think that it can happen to anyone, like not just like people who are doing some shit, you know what I mean, like just like normal people every day. And I think that's the really like spooky, scary part right now to some people.
Now we know we have Brian Koberger in custody, and to my knowledge, Mr. Harsh has not been arrested or been named as anyone as a person of interest in this crime. However, everyone online is commenting about him, and there are some really alarming coincidences, if you will, about some of the things that have happened and some of the statements and facts that we know of. Also, Mr. Harsh has not been online anymore. He went from going on Reddit constantly, answering people's questions and making comments, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, making videos, to just flying completely off the radar a couple weeks after the arrest of Mr. Koberger. Also, Mr. Harsh works in Pullman. His family lives in Pullman, right around there. And that route that Brian Koberger took went right by Enon Harsh's family's property, which is really interesting. If perhaps they were friends or acquainted, maybe because of that survey. Mr. Harsh has an extensive criminal past and a history with drugs, and perhaps they met and started talking and maybe became friends. We just don't know. This is all speculation at this point, but these are very real possibilities. So basically, you can see that it's 20 minutes approximately from that Blaine Tower he hit after the crime. I have taken out the family's address. I don't want anyone to be harassed. This is purely a discussion. In addition, he left out in that interview that he was at the Grub Bus. Watch the video.
2 chicken burritos with extra slaw. $19 for you.
I know I have a $6 waiting for me. Would like to use it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
What's the reward?
Ha 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 ha.
Oh, fuck, I just hit your jacket. Sorry, man.
Fuck yeah.
$13. Hell yeah.
Worth it.
Oh, always.
So that's him. Big troubling red flag, number 5 million. He was right there at the Grub Bus. That's him. He admitted it online that it was him. He confirmed it. How do you not remember to say that in an interview when the whole world is talking about the case and he was very familiar with the details? How was that left out? So again, does he know Brian Koberger? He says he doesn't. But can we believe him? This post was posted on the 31st, thereabout, 54 days ago. Somebody asked him if he had heard of Koberger, and he said, nah, never seen or heard from this guy. I mostly just know my coworkers and my old friends, mostly from high school. Looks like he hasn't slept in a while based off his mugshots. Openly anti-LGBTQ plus, friendly. I wouldn't invite him to my parties either. Wonder if apathy from feeling left out was really his motive. I wonder if this hitchhiker I picked up on Halloween on campus to another party. He never gave directions. He was so drunk, so I just started driving home, and of course it was one of my neighbors. He kept saying people knew where they were if I was trying to kill them. And I was like, what the F? Thought either I just look hella suspect because whatever, or if maybe someone just made him feel uncomfortable earlier because he was gay and they were sexist. I don't know, one of those things you never think about. But after SHIT like this happens, you can't stop but wonder. So, that was a really odd statement. I don't know where people's orientation came into play and how he just went off on a tangent talking about some crazy story about some hitchhikers that he picked up that he had posted on Reddit that got a lot of attention, where he admitted to watching a heavy-set Asian woman in a window. This is why so many people are questioning if he's involved. These are the reasons. So, was he at the home that night? We know that he was watching from those windows. And I think proof of where he parked kind of shows it. Did he know Brian? Whose car was that the night of the crimes, driving by close to the crime scene? Could that have been Enon's car and he was driving home from the grub truck? These are all questions that hopefully police have the answers to. Another way that he was paying attention to that house, he said, I hope Arizona's looked at. I see plates on occasion there, and I don't think they are consistent visitors. Well, we know that Xana was from Arizona. Her car had Arizona plates on it. So that's an odd statement. Her dad was there a week before the crime. Could he have been contemplating going over there that week, and because of Xana's dad, it didn't happen? Xana's dad lives in Phoenix. He's got Phoenix plates. Did he drive or did he fly? I don't know. Another interesting fact. Enon was looking for a car on October 4th of 2022. He says, anyone trying to sell a car, looking for a wagon or roomy back? I like to sleep in my cars. With high MPH, under 100,000 miles, under 10,000 cash. Looking for good life expectancy too. Honda, Toyota, Jetta for the most part. So he's looking for a car in his area, under 10,000, somewhere preferably under 100,000 miles. But who was selling a car? Kaylee was selling a car. Did they meet because of that? She sold the car, right before this crime took place. She still had dealer plates on it. So her car did have 164,000 miles on it, but it was in his price range. However, it was listed in Coeur d'Alene, so we don't know. A Reddit post I found where he talks about the timing of the crime being perfect. Like, what if the person scoped it out for weeks? He said that they knew the basic routines of people. He waited for a low-key night, all the neighbors' cars to return, then hit the house. All of those things are just, really alarming statements. I mean, all of us have speculated on what happened, but he puts himself there. He gave the interviews, he kept making the statements, and that's why it's odd. Could Brian Koberger have dropped him off at home? He said he was coming back or something and didn't, and then maybe that's why Brian went back in the morning. Maybe that's why Brian's pings are always in that area. Maybe they were friends. That's what people are saying. Could that be possible? I guess it could, but we'll see what the evidence shows. Another coincidence, Enon Harsh's family has poodles in their household, similar to Kaylee's dog. Maybe, it could be a reason the dog was not harmed. We know that Brian Koberger, the day after the crime, had gone to an area known as Clarkston, Idaho, or Clarkston, Washington. And oddly enough, there's a chef store right in the shopping plaza that he was at. And I just find that interesting since Enon is a chef. I mean, all these little weird coincidences. And I do know the restaurant that Enon works at, and I'm not going to publicize that, due to his privacy, but they do have a lot of vegan options. And we know that both of them were also vegan. So these are the reasons, again, why there's so many similarities and people are questioning this. In that interview he gave with Hidden True Crime, he mentioned the walkway down to the other apartments, failed to mention the grub truck. We know he lives across the street. He mentions he's on the second floor. He talks about watching them. He mentions Kaylee several times. We know that after the crime, investigators were looking around near those apartments, not even near them, at those apartments. So it's going to come back to what they find in the evidence. Why these victims? What did they find in Koberger's apartment? Again, this person is not accused of anything at this point in time. He may never be. He may have absolutely zero association. As of right now, that's the assumption. He has no association, no affiliation with any of the events that occurred that night pertaining to anyone at that King Road residence. However, these are the reasons why he's come into question. So, you be the judge yourself in terms of how significant you think these coincidences are. Could they be related? Could they not? Is it just media hype? Was he being too helpful and just saying too much and it got twisted? We just don't know. So we're going to have to wait and see what the evidence shows to see why these crimes occurred for these 4 victims and what happened on that night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned.